Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. My name is Javier Flores. I'm the president of the Channel Island Bruins, and that's the alumni network that covers West Ventura County. Um, if you are not part of your local network, I would really encourage you to join. We are all volunteers for UCLA, and we raise money for scholarships for our local students. So I know that Jacob is going to go ahead and put our link to our account there. If you guys want to, maybe donate a couple dollars here or there to help us with scholarships. I know that we're trying to issue a scholarship this year to a local student. So we really would appreciate that. If you would like more details on how you can join your network or how you can join our network, please feel free to stay after the presentation. I'll stay on the call, and then we can get your contact information, and we can reach out to you and see if you'd like to join us for a board meeting or just more of our events. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let me introduce you to our speaker. He is a UCLA alum, and he piqued my interest when I saw his Instagram account. I felt like he was such a great speaker, and I thought that he would give us a lot of value. And at the time when I found out about him, he was a real estate agent, and he was helping families in the LA area reach their housing dreams. Now he is a lender and a financial freedom advocate. So please help me welcome our guest speaker, Sergio, AKA Big Serge, your money man, Orzinski.
Thank you, Javier. Hi, everybody.
I didn't do it as good as you did, but I tried.
AKA Big Serge, your money man. All right, you guys. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's a big honor. I don't take it lightly. I hope I share. I hope I share a lot of practical information. I hope I share information that just gets your mind stimulated and gets you thinking maybe a little bit differently. That's my goal. You know what? As far as whatever you guys do with it, that's on you. Obviously, you got to take action. But feel free after this to reach out to me, and we can go into greater detail. Okay, I have a little PowerPoint that I want to share with you guys. All right, you guys. So I was born and raised in San Francisco, California. Moved down here in 2005 to start as a freshman. Graduated in 2009 in economics and psychology. Absolutely loved my experience at UCLA. Probably top years of my life, pretty much. But the best is yet to come, though, for sure. But it was amazing times. And then, it was a recession when I graduated in 2009. So I went to the UCLA Career Fair right before graduating and ended up getting a job at Target and worked there as a ETL, executive team leader. I did sales floor and did logistics management for 7.5 years, learned a lot about leadership, effective communication. But there was an itch while I was there. The whole time I was there, was an itch of becoming an entrepreneur. I wasn't sure how to do that. I was doing, I wanted to become a wholesaler, get properties in contract and do all this and that. One thing led to another. A lot of influence with my mom, who was able to grow a real estate portfolio in San Francisco. That pushed me into becoming a realtor in 2016. Did that full time, day in and day out, since pretty much last year. And this year I made a leap of faith into mortgages. So a new challenge, something where I feel I can add more value to my clients. And yeah, in between all that time, I've been a full-time house hacker. Bought my first duplex in 2012. Rented the back part of the back unit, rented out the rooms. And to this day, now I live in a single family home, but I expanded my property, and the back portion of my property is a master suite, which I Airbnb, and that pays for the majority of my mortgage. So I'm a very passionate person about living such a lifestyle where you become recession proof, right? It's great to make a high income. That's something that I think is very important, but also be have have the mindset of investing in assets, so you're of high net worth as well. And whether you lose your job or change jobs or whatever the case is, you have real estate, you have your stocks, you have your businesses to fall back on. I'm a very big advocate of that. All right, so that's a little bit about me. All right, let me share my screen. All right, can everybody see my screen? Thumbs up if you can.
Yes.
All right, awesome, you guys. All right, so I called this class Wealth Empowerment During Uncommon Times, Quantum Leap class. I'm a mortgage officer with 24/7 Mortgage. Here and there, I do some real estate with SoCal Properties, Keller Williams. We're based out of Cerritos and Westminster, so LA County and Orange County. What to expect today? 1 hour wealth seminar discussing wealth creation through real estate and loans. We'll cover books, podcasts, credit score and profile, house hacks, tenants, 555 rule, 4321 formula, LLC, and living trust. Please save your questions to the end of each slide. Not the end of the whole presentation, because sometimes things are fresh in your mind. I'd rather just, bam, while we're talking about it, let's address it. Okay. Make sure I have my chat open, or Javier, if you can let me know if there's a question, I'll make sure to open the chat. Disclaimer, I'm not a trained CPA, tax advisor, or real estate attorney. Information is based on my experience and independent research. Okay, so I own property, I'm a landlord, I've done multiple evictions, I've screened tenants, I've done all the good, the bad, the ugly, so to speak. Okay, why is this important? Okay, we're in historical times right now, massive inflation. US government generally aims for a yearly 2% inflation. We're at 7% inflation, and that's a 40-year high. So as you guys can tell with gas prices and things of that nature, things are pretty pricey right now. A reported 40% of dollars in circulation were printed in the last 24 months. There's approximately $8 trillion on the Fed's balance sheet. So a lot of like just an unprecedented amount of spending. And I believe because of that, because of many other reasons, it's never been more important to invest and hedge against the devaluing US dollar, hedge against inflation. Lending rates are climbing, so they've been going up, but I believe that's a healthy direction. It's going to help curb inflation, so it's a good thing. It's very important that we understand as we progress the difference between an asset and a liability. So you'll hear me making a lot of references to like the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and you'll see that I emphasize that a lot. I believe house hacking is powerful in any economy, and asset protection to keep what you work for. All these things will be covered, and they're very important for different reasons. Inflation. So as you guys can tell, basically in the last year, we've just been pretty much steadily climbing, from a 1.4 all the way to now 7%. A lot of that is in gas, energy, rent. Rent has gone up a lot of things that are just affecting the middle class. But yes, we're at about 7% right now. Now, I strategically put the inflation slide and then now average rental rates. So when I mean that you can hedge against inflation, one of the best ways, in my opinion, to hedge against inflation is by owning rental producing real estate. Because historically, or at least since the 1980s, since a lot of this has been measured, rents have been increasing by more than inflation. So you're at a positive. But if you want to take it all the way back, since 1940, when the median rent in the US was $27 per month, since 1940, all the way in the last 80 years, pretty much without many dips, rent has increased. So it's one of those few investments that really doesn't really plateau, doesn't really dip too severely. If you want something just consistent year after year after year, I don't know of anything that really beats rental real estate, especially because it outpaces inflation. That's key. It outpaces inflation. Rental trends. So rent prices have increased an average of 8.86% per year since 1980, consistently outpacing inflation. Something to note, nationwide average monthly rent is about $1,100. Okay. All right, some predictions for the rest of the year. Goldman Sachs predicts housing market prices will grow by about 16%. That's a very aggressive prediction. We saw about 20% appreciation in 2021. It was a really incredible year for real estate. Fannie Mae says it might be just about 7%. Historically, we're still on pace to have an amazing year in real estate 2022. Demand is high and supply is low. Perfect storm for price appreciation. Biggest thing fueling demand are the millennials entering the home buying market. They are the biggest generation in the US and are reaching their peak home buying age, which is about 30 to 33 years of age. So it's that segment of the population that was born from 87 to 1991. 1987 to 1991, big population explosion in the US. And that's around the time that millennials are thinking about settling down, forming a family. The moment millennials or anybody really gets married, you see home ownership that skyrocket, especially when people begin to have children. It becomes a huge focus. COVID spiked housing demand, but now we're back to population and fundamentals of demand driving the market. It is likely that international investors will pour into the US real estate market as well. COVID was kind of keeping a lot of investors out. We'll see what happens right now, what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. But, as far as in general, a lot of international investors were kind of holding back till borders were opening up and they felt it was safer to invest. So now that COVID has been on a decline, you may see a lot more international investors. Inventory, okay, so this is kind of like, it's hard to really put your finger on it, where exactly the gap is. We just all know there's a very big gap in the supply. Some say it's around as low as 1.7 million housing units that were undersupplied. Some say that as a country, we're undersupplied with housing by 4 million. Hard to really say, but in general, we're at a big gap. And according to some, even if current construction rates increase, it will be around 8 years to close the inventory gap. Some more predictions. Rates have gone up faster than expected, likely to hit 5% range towards fourth quarter. Forbearance worked like a charm. Really, we didn't see that people that got into forbearance stayed or went into foreclosure. So that was one government program that worked really well to help people during the pandemic. It says 85 to 90% of homes coming out of forbearance are in good standing. That's great. Okay, that's great. A lot of people kept their homes. Credit score, majority of buyers fueling the market have great credit scores. Average is 760. Foreclosure at equilibrium, not predicted to increase or impact the market. All right, so this whole real estate, this whole investing thing is about continuously and never-ending learning. Okay, if you take anything from today, it's just learn. It's vital that you read the right books and listen to the right podcasts so you know what's going on and you know what tools you have. Okay, so empowerment through education, books, and podcasts. Books, I highly recommend reading or using the Audible app to listen to the books, okay, however you prefer. Here are some of the top 5 books. I mean, I have a lot more, but these right here are great ones to get started. The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas J. Stanley. There, they really emphasize being of high net worth, not necessarily high net income. A lot of people confuse the two. It's really important to increase your net worth by owning real estate, owning things that increase your net worth, equitable items. Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I also like his other book, Rich Dad's Cash Flow Quadrant. Another great book, The Lifestyle Investor by Justin Donald. And a great book to understand trends in the market, Shifts Ahead by John Burns. All right, empowerment through education, books, and podcasts. Podcasts, for the most part, are free and super informative. Top podcasts to accelerate your growth are Passive Real Estate Investing by Marco Santarelli, Bigger Pockets Real Estate Investing, Earn Your Leisure, and The Tim Ferriss Show. All right, the number one rule to grow wealth, the number one rule to gain wealth and grow it, in my opinion, it's know the difference between a liability and an asset. And I don't mean I don't mean the definition like a CPA would, okay? I mean it more from a Robert Kiyosaki standpoint. Simply put, liabilities take money out of your pocket and assets put money into your pocket. Examples of liabilities: cars, clothes, tech items. They go down in value over time. They depreciate. Examples of assets: real estate, businesses, life insurances, crypto at times, stocks, right? They go up in value over time and create cash flow. They create dividends, tax breaks, things like that. So they're good to hold, especially for long run. And this is a key emphasis I've made in bold here. When investing, I would have this in your thought process. Playing the long game will make you recession proof. I dare you guys to buy a property, buy a stock in a solid company, Amazon, Google, Tesla, all these, and hold on to it for more than 10 years. Hold on to that piece of property 15, 20 years. You just imagine the kind of appreciation that you will gain. Now, if you're going to buy something for a year or 5 years, it can be risky and you will not be recession proof. But if you have the discipline and the delayed gratification to buy and hold for a long term, odds are stacked in your favor. All right, let's talk about the 5-5-5 plan. This is about buying 5 homes in 5 years, each for 5% down. In the US, you can have up to 10 conventional loans at the same time. After that, you have to get creative. You have to get private money, creative financing. You can do up to 10 conventional loans. So what is the 5-5-5 plan? It's where you leverage your job and buy your first property for 3 to 5% down. The key here is that you're buying this property as a primary residence. You're not telling the bank, hey, I want to buy an investment property and rent it out. You're going to buy it to live in it, okay? The year after, you purchase another primary residence for 3 to 5% down. What happened to the first property? The first property is considered a property that you departed from. You still own it, but you departed from it. For example, let's say you start small. Your first year, you buy a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. All right, then you go ahead and a year later, you want to buy a bigger home. The bank will understand why you would like to buy a bigger home, because maybe the 2-1, it's not enough space for you. It was great for at the beginning, but now maybe your family has gotten larger, or now you need a home office, whatever the case is, and now you want to buy a 3-2. The bank will say, no problem. You can buy this new home again for 5% down. They would just ask that you leave the first property, rent it out. And you can repeat that over and over again until you have 5 properties. And in theory, since you're buying each new property every couple of years as a primary residence, you can buy five properties each for 5% down. Okay. Now I know I kind of spoke pretty fast there. Does that kind of make sense what I'm saying there in regards to buying those 5 properties? Oops. Let me see. Skipped ahead there. Any questions regarding that?
Yeah, how easy is it to convince the bank that you'll have that rental income available? I mean, what do you have to do to provide I mean, what kind of proof, I guess, are they going to look for? How do you justify that you'll be able to afford this newer, bigger house with that rental income before that rental income exists?
Excellent question. So the amount that you're going to rent it for has to make sense. So the appraiser will look for rental comps in that area. So you cannot say, let's say you know that your home will rent out for $2,500. You can't just make up a number and tell the bank, hey, it's going to rent out for $4,000. It has to make sense. Okay. Yeah, it hasn't rented yet, but you're basically telling the bank a story. This is how it's going to be, and it has to be believable, right? So everything that an appraiser does is based off of comps. Just like when you're selling a property or buying a property, the appraisal is based on what it could resell for. Same thing in the case of a departing property. The number that you tell the bank has to make sense. So proof, you don't necessarily, I mean, not necessarily proof, that's something that the lender would probably handle, but it would just have to be a sensible number, ballpark number.
Awesome, thanks.
Absolutely, very welcome. All right, so the 555 rule is more for single family residencies. Okay, if you want to buy multifamily property, I want to introduce you to the 4-3-2-1 formula, how to live rent free. So year one, you want to buy a fourplex using the FHA 3.5% down program. FHA is one of the very few, if I think the only program that I'm aware of that allows you to buy up to 4 units with as little as 3.5% down. Very powerful program for first-time home buyers. You have the rent of the 3 other units cover your mortgage. You leverage this massive monthly mortgage savings and save up another 3.5% down. Year 2 and 3, you invest in a triplex. Use the rents of the other 2 units to live rent-free. Save up your next 3.5% down payment. Year 3 and 4, you invest in a duplex. Other unit covers the front unit. And then year 5, buy your dream single home family. So is this easier said than done? Yes, it is. Okay. But is the logic solid? Yes. A lot of people start off by buying a single family home or their perfect home first. I think that I would challenge you to consider start off by buying a multifamily property, leverage the savings of having other people help you with the mortgage, help you accumulate your capital again, and ideally buy another multifamily property. And once you have enough cash flow going, then treat yourself, if that's something that you really want, for that single family home. Okay, a lot of people do it the other way around. They buy a single family home. It's like they lose all their capital, right? Because they're fixing it up, they're making it as awesome as possible, and then it takes them so long where they never get to buying other rental property, right? And when you start off by owning a multifamily property, you become a first-time homeowner and you become a first-time landlord. It's awesome. You get both things at once. Okay, so it is possible when you structure correctly where you can get 10 doors in 5 years, each for 3.5% down. So a lot of people say, oh my God, I have a 10-door portfolio, right? I just showed you here where you don't need to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. You just need to leverage the FHA and the low down payment programs. Again, easier said than done, but it is possible, and there are programs out there meant to help you make that happen. Full disclosure, one of the challenges here in California with the high cost of property is the FHA self-sufficiency test. For example, if you buy a fourplex, the rent of the 3 units needs to be high enough that it's going to cover 75% of your total mortgage. Many times these fourplexes or rents are not that high, and so it may not qualify for that. So it's on a case-by-case scenario where you would be able to do the 3.5% down for a fourplex using the FHA. Any questions about that? All right. Oh, okay. Got one in the chat. What are the limits on FHA income units? So that I'm aware of, it's not really a income limitation. It has to do with you being a first-time home buyer. That's the key. And you can buy with an FHA loan, you can buy as small as a condo, townhome, or single family home, and as many units as a fourplex at one time. And that would require 3.5% down. Okay. So it's about being a first-time home buyer. Very welcome, Kim. That's how when I first bought my property upon graduating from UCLA, I bought a duplex here in Long Beach, and the very first property I bought was a duplex, and that really helped me scale my portfolio. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about credit profile, maybe something that you guys already don't need much touching up on, but I always like it as a good, as a good refresher. Power up your credit profile. You need a strong credit score and profile to maximize your opportunities. The focus should not be on just your score, but more so your profile. This determines how fundable you are. Fundability gets you credit lines, business and personal credit, lower rates. Pro tip, request increases in your credit card limits. Every 20 points is a different tier, 680, 700, 720. The higher tier you are, the lower of a rate you'll get for your interest rate on your mortgage. The lower your rate, the lower your monthly payment. And when you're owning rental property, the lower your payment, the higher your cash flow. So it becomes very important. So rates versus purchasing power. So assuming that there's a buyer that has a gross annual income of $58,000, look how much their qualification goes down when the rates go up. At 4%, this buyer qualifies for $314,000. Same income, same everything. When rates go up to 7.5, their total qualification goes down by over $100,000. Okay, so again, your purchasing power will decrease as the rates go up. So credit profile, very important that you guys have a routine around continuously checking your credit score, not necessarily running your credit, because that'll have a adverse effect on your credit score, but constantly monitoring it, making sure there's no identity theft, making sure that there's no collections, making sure that your credit profile is healthy. I highly recommend My FICO. That's what I use. I feel is very accurate, more than Credit Karma. But yeah, that's just something I would have as a routine. And rule of thumb, never ever pay the minimum. Paying the minimum actually will hurt your score. Always pay more than a minimum, and if possible, make more than one payment in a 1-month cycle. All right, let's talk a little bit about loans here. There's HELOC versus cash out refinance. So one great thing about owning real estate is not only that a property will appreciate and get tax savings and cash flow, but also the fact that you can leverage the equity to buy other assets and grow and scale your portfolio. So let's talk about a HELOC. HELOC stands for a home equity line of credit. A couple things to keep in mind with a HELOC is that it has a variable rate. Okay, it can change. It's not a fixed rate. It can go down, it can go up and go down. You can only borrow from a primary residence. So you can only pull a HELOC from your primary, not from your investment property. Usually speaking, a HELOC is interest only for 10 years. Then there's a 15-year repayment period where it's interest and principal. It's very similar to a credit card. You don't pay interest till you utilize the money. And rates change with market rates. Okay, what is a cash out refinance? It's a fixed rate. It can be used on any property, your primary where you live or your rental properties. You pay interest on an entire loan, combines first loan with refi loan. So it's not like a HELOC where you have your main mortgage and then a HELOC attached to it as a second lien. It's all one, all becomes one new loan. And it has the lowest risk. All right, couple different real estate strategies. So there's Airbnb, VRBO, short-term rentals. In my opinion, short-term rentals are booming and will continue to boom. Something to keep in mind with that though, is that a lot of cities have limitations. For example, where I'm from in San Francisco, that I'm aware of, you have to have somebody stay for at least 30 days. You cannot have day-to-day Airbnb. There may be some exceptions. I forget how that works. I think if it's someone's going to rent inside of where you live, you're inside your own apartment, then it can be day-to-day. But if it's a property you own and you don't actually live in that specific unit, then it has to be a minimum of 30 days. So keep that in mind if you're going to do short-term rental, that there are a lot of limitations. Multifamily, keep in mind that there was rent control and rent moratoriums that sometimes make it hard to evict or raise rent. Garage conversion, ADU, I believe one of the biggest opportunities right now, especially in the state of California. Huge opportunities with accessory dwelling units, otherwise known as garage conversions. And if you look at the history, a lot of that legislation was actually created at UCLA. So it's something to definitely be proud of as a Bruin, that this was kind of like a response to the housing crisis, to the limited amount of houses that we have available. You could also do specialty rentals, such as buying a property near a university and doing student rental. You could do assisted living. I mean, we have a huge baby boomer population, a lot of retirees that would rather live in a single family home as opposed to in one of those convalescent homes. Also sober living. I've heard that can be very lucrative, and at the same time, again, providing something that's very helpful for the community. House hacking, subdividing, always practical, whether it is owning multifamily property, whether it is, if you have an extra large family room, maybe adding a wall and a door, creating more bedrooms, all those things can go a long way. Fix and flip, I feel it's risky. It's a very interesting time right now in the market, very volatile. But just like anything, there's still money to be made. And last note on types of real estate, because there's so many, but this one is something that I just wanted to kind of pique your interest on, is mobile home parks. So you don't own the mobile home, but you own the mobile home park. And the owner of the mobile home pays you rent to be on that land. I feel like there's a lot of upside, and it has one of the lowest loan default rates out of any real estate investment, meaning it's probably one of the most lucrative ones, right? All right. Do you think the new bill prohibiting Los Angeles landlords running background and criminal checks will pass? If so, what could landlords do instead? You know what? In Los Angeles, it's one of the toughest places to be a landlord. So will it pass? I don't know for sure, but I think it's very possible, because Los Angeles is very landlord unfriendly. Okay, it does not, you do not have that many protections. As far as what to do in that situation, there's a couple strategies. You could maybe, if you're comfortable with it, maybe leverage government funds and rent out to Section 8. That way 90% of your rent is guaranteed. That's one avenue. What else can you do, man? That's a tough one when you can't do background checks. We'll touch on that in a little bit, because that's a very good question, and that's one of the biggest things. Remember, your tenants, people in real estate, are going to be either your greatest asset or your greatest liability. So what Mary's asking is something we'll touch on in further slides, because that's crucial. Is Ventura County more friendly to landlords? Yes. I think San Francisco County and LA County are probably, I don't know this to be a fact, but I think I'm 99% correct, that because my mom lives in San Francisco, so I have firsthand experience. I was born and raised there. And then LA County are probably the two worst places to be a landlord. Still, a really good rent, you can charge a good amount for rent and very low vacancies. But as far as rights, there's a lot of room for growth there. All right, house hacking. What is house hacking? Okay, basically you live in one of the units or part of the house and have tenants pay the mortgage, expenses, and ideally create positive cash flow. So here's something to think about here, as far as house hacking. The more uncomfortable you are willing to be, the higher your ROI, your return on investment. So basically, a most comfortable would be an ADU, and duplex or up to a fourplex. The most uncomfortable would be you're sleeping in your living room and renting out the rest of the house per room, right? So just think about that. So if times get really, really tough and you're willing to be uncomfortable, I've done this. I have rented out every room. I've had people sleeping in my living room. I've been doing Airbnb full time since 2015. So I have a hands-on, personal experience of, I've gotten real uncomfortable and I've made a lot of money in one per night renting out my house. I've rented out my backyard. People came with tents. I mean, we unfortunately, this is time, but I have stories for days. Okay, so the reason I even bring this up is during tough economical times, people look to downsize and get more affordable housing. Testimonial from a house hacker. I kind of gave you that right now. All right. Any questions? All right, keep it going. Accessory dwelling units. This is 640, so I'll kind of speed this up. It basically requires that cities and counties develop a plan that promotes ADU creation that can be offered to low-income households. Something to keep in mind that's very powerful. Back in the day, you'd be lucky to just get one ADU on your property. Nowadays, depending on the city, depending on the lot size and different things like that, you can get an ADU, which is usually a detached housing unit, and you can get a junior ADU, which is a smaller unit attached to your main house. So basically, you could buy one house and create 3 doors, create like a triplex out of it. Now, this is always changing, but now, even if you have multifamily property, let's say you bought a fourplex, you did the 4-3-2-1 rule. Bought a fourplex, you can add one ADU to it. So you buy a fourplex, and now you, in essence, you have a 5-plex. So you can't do that. That's a very powerful thing. This is something I would highly consider you guys look into it in greater depth after this seminar today, because I feel this is, if you guys already own a home, maybe don't even consider buying another home quite yet because pricing is so high. Potentially consider expanding the land that you already have. Food for thought. That's what I did. So if you want to find a roommate, how do you do that? Well, believe it or not, Facebook Marketplace is a great place to do that. Zillow, Trulia, HotPads, Roomies.com. So if you're going to buy a house and do room rental, I own a property like that. I would recommend ideally keeping the house one gender, keeps things more simple as far as like bathrooms being shared and whatnot. Ask type of employment, credit score, get references. Ideally get work and former landlord references. What should I look for in a tenant? Okay, this is good. So we're kind of talking about this. So I would call all references. Is this tenant responsible? Now this is big. Get proof of income. One of the biggest things I believe, even more than your credit score, is the ability for a tenant to find another place to move to. How is that possible? Well, if they make 2 to 3 times the rent amount, then their ability to pay high rent somewhere else is that much more likely. You can have an 800 credit score, but if you barely make enough to cover the rent, how in the world are you going to find another place to move to? So that's where you can potentially get like a squatter or get somebody that just makes it really tough for you to evict them because they don't make enough income where another property management company or another landlord would take them. So be focused on how much they make. Look at those pay stubs. Look at their W-2s. If you're going to charge them $1,000 of rent, ideally they should be making gross $3,000 per month. That's the goal. Don't get fooled by the credit score. Credit score is important, but their income and their ability to rent somewhere else is more. Take it from me. I've made a lot of mistakes, and that's been one of the biggest indicators. Okay, estate planning. I'll just kind of touch over that really quick because you guys are going to be investing. It's very important that you guys protect yourself. I recommend 2 things. I recommend everybody have a trust and a will. Okay, it's important because a trust will help you avoid probate, where if you were to pass away or your spouse were to pass away, now the courts get involved and it just becomes a more messy situation potentially. And a will obviously allows you to appoint a guardian for your children. You can specify distribution of assets. If you want to leave money to UCLA, it's a great way to, put it in your will. That's important. All right. Yes, good advice about estate planning. My office can help anyone with that. There you go. We have a fellow Bruin, Deanne Lee. Please reach out to him. There you go. Absolutely. I will be. Reach out to him for estate planning. Love it. Thank you. Asset protection mentality here with real estate is own nothing, control everything. So basically, don't own things under your name. Own them under an LLC or some sort of entity that separates you from that property. And for more details, we have a fellow Bruin. He can specify that more. But for example, do not own your rental properties under your name. Own it under an LLC. You are a member of the LLC. This is done to provide a wall or layer of protection in case you were to be sued. Okay, we're in a highly litigious country and state. You want to keep that in mind. And I tell you guys all these things because in the end, I believe high income is great, but high net worth is more important, especially via cash flowing assets, because that creates freedom. That's what I would want for every single Bruin out there, is strive for freedom. And you can't do that by just being by having high earned income. Focus on having high passive income. So regardless if you switch careers, regardless if you work less hours, if there's a recession, in a recession, more people rent than buy. So your rental pool will only go up. Not that I want there to be a recession, but the odds are that may be happening, right? We have incredible inflation and a huge deficit and different things going on. So something to keep in mind. All right, so please contact me if you guys have any questions. I'm here to help. Free loan consultation, no obligation. Just if you want to pick my brain on not even loan stuff, you want to talk about Airbnb, room rental. I've done evictions. I've been sued. I can tell you all crazy things. So I'm not just going to sell you a shiny penny and tell you, yeah, real estate solves everything. No, you just have a plan. So here's my direct cell phone line. Call me, text me, 562. Email right here, Sergio. If you want to look me up and become friends on Facebook, very friendly. It's my full name. Instagram, don't laugh at me, but my Instagram name is Big Surge Money. And then YouTube, I have the Big Surge Real Estate Show. All right. And I have one question. Do you put each property under a separate LLC or one umbrella LLC for all? I personally, the way I have it, I have them under separate LLCs. And for example, if I bought a house on 2020 Ocean Boulevard, I would call the LLC 2020 Ocean LLC. But I'm not a specialist in that, so I would recommend you get with Deanne. He's a probate trust litigation specialist, and he'll break that down, whether an umbrella, what are the benefits of having them separate or under an umbrella. Because I know that's like it gets pretty detailed, but great question. And that concludes my slides for today. We'll do maybe 5-10 minutes of Q&A. Ask away any questions, and hopefully you guys found this informative.
Hey, Serge, thank you so much. A lot of good information. I have a question. I'm a real estate agent myself, and I often have investors asking me about purchasing properties for Airbnb. Not only investors, but you're just like a person that wants to invest in real estate. And what do you think? Where in like a city do you think Airbnbs are more successful? And like, does it matter if it's closer to a certain area, or could it be like a regular residential area? Because I'm not too familiar with Airbnbs.
Well, I personally have done Airbnb here in Long Beach since 2015.
Sure
so I've been doing it since. I was kind of echoing. I'm sorry. I've been doing Airbnb here in Long Beach since 2015, so it's about 7 years, and I almost never have vacancies. So I feel like if you do it pretty much anywhere, we're lucky. I mean, if you guys live here in LA, Orange County, Ventura County, as long as it's pretty dense, densely populated, you're going to have nonstop bookings. Now, of course, if you want to charge more, the closer you are to amenities, the better, right? The closer you are to public transportation. So will you have issues with vacancies? No, in my opinion, no. I mean, because I know a lot of people that do Airbnb, and it's just full. It just the future generations are not going to be staying in hotels. Like that's just not going to be the thing. Like, the next generation is going to be staying on Airbnb. They're just like they're not going to be, they're not going to be lining up for Black Friday, lines around the block. They're going to be on their iPad, on their tablet, ordering things. They're going to be, that's just a trend. But yeah, I think like places like Big Bear, when there used to be a little bit more affordable, phenomenal place that have to have an Airbnb. People like to go, skiing and snowboarding. Anywhere near a beach, you're going to do really good. Anywhere where, another one, anywhere where there's gatherings, like where there's like a convention center and stuff like that, you're going to get a lot of people wanting to stay there. So yeah, I recommend looking into it. I mean, if you get the right place, I know people that have retired from just one Airbnb. Just one Airbnb. Imagine because they can charge $300 a day. Just do the math on that. $300 per day times 30 days, that's $9,000. Even if they pay tax and all this other stuff, it makes $6,000 a month. That's not bad. It's $72,000 a year. Again, it all depends on the area. It depends on, the amenities and things like that. But I think if done right, it can be very lucrative.
Do you ever have issues with like neighbors, issues with neighbors not liking the fact that there's an Airbnb in their neighborhood?
I haven't, because it's just a little studio. It's kind of like a large bedroom that I rent. And so there's no parties. I think the only times that neighbors are going to have issues is when it's a whole house or it's like a party house. People want, they want family values. They want peace and quiet. They have to wake up the next day to work. And obviously when an Airbnb is just here on vacation, here to party, their mindset is completely different, right? They don't care about making noise or drinking and smoking and whatever they're doing. So that's not, that's not conducive. But yeah, so that's something to keep in mind too. Yes, you will get complaints. And that's why a lot of cities have banned Airbnb, where you have to do it at least 30 days. Because if the kind of person you're going to attract for 30 days is different than a person you'll attract for 2 or 3 days. Yeah. So that's part of the reason why there's been so many limitations on Airbnb.
I think you have a couple questions there.
All right, let's see. Is it legal for landlords to require co-signed proof of income and references for? I believe it is legal. I think Mary J. Yes, you can. Okay, so Lauren already answered that, but yes, I would agree with her. I would say that it is legal. I mean, it's not like you're asking them for their medical background. You're asking them for something pertaining to real estate, pertaining to their past rental history. Kim, how much of the management do you yourself versus working with property managers, real estate agents? So I only have three properties. I don't have big buildings or anything like that yet. Everything that I have is pretty local, so I manage it myself. Now, once I have bigger properties or more units, like, my goal would be to have like a 16 unit in the near future, or buy property out of state. I'm not going to be around there. I don't know who the best handyman contractors are. I don't know this and that. So at that point, I would pay the 6 to 10% property management fee to have it managed. Yeah, because I'm a firm believer that if you own real estate, rental property should be as passive as possible. That's the whole point. You're buying and hold for long term. And if you got to pay part of your earnings to keep it passive, by all means. But for right now, since it's nearby and it's just single family homes, I manage everything myself. Is it a little bit of work? Yes, but I keep more of the pie. How easy is it to set up an LLC and how much does it cost? From what I remember paying, I think I pay $800 a year. Very welcome. I think I pay $800 a year. It's very easy. Just partner with a CPA. They'll get all the paperwork set up. They'll submit it to the state of California. And again, I believe it's $800 every year that you have to pay, which should be a tax deduction, you know, as part of you running your real estate business. But yes, easy to do and not too expensive.
No, okay, great. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming and joining us today. We would love to have another one of these virtual events. I think it's very successful, and we have people join us from just about everywhere in California. So thank you so much to Serge for your time. Thank you to Jacob from UCLA for helping us out. And I'll stay on this call in case you guys want to find out more about our network and what we do, and see if you guys want to join us. So thank you so much, Sergio.
Very welcome. Thanks, Javier, for having me. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks, everybody, for your time. Really appreciate it. Anything I can do, I'm here to help. You guys have a great one.